I've taken 6 Royal Caribbean cruises so far in 2024, and I wanted to share some of the lessons from each cruise I've taken up next. Hey everyone, it's Matt from RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com. When I go on a cruise, there's almost always some sort of lesson learned from that sailing, and I like to apply those lessons to future sailing. Sometimes it's something small, sometimes it's something big, but regardless of that, I usually try to at least remember to learn from my mistakes, or maybe not so much a mistake, but ways I can improve my cruise going forward. Cruises are a very personal type of vacation, and depending on how you particularly like to cruise, well, your experience is going to differ. So I wanted to share my experiences, and maybe some of these lessons will help you out. So I'm going to go in reverse chronological order, starting with my most recent cruise, which is Liberty of the Seas, a 5-night cruise out of Bayonne, New Jersey, down to Bermuda. And the lesson learned here is to look up info before going to any particular beach. Now, odds are almost any beach you pick in the Caribbean, or in this case Bermuda, is probably going to be better than a beach you have back at home, or unless you live inland and you have no beaches, but I digress. The point is, they're not all the same, and this is kind of a two-part lesson. One is to look up info about going to a beach, and two, don't be lazy about it. In our case, we wanted to go to a beach on the second day we were in Bermuda, and admittedly, we were feeling lazy, and I thought about the options. One option was to spend a little more time, and maybe even money, and go over to Horseshoe Bay, which is well-renowned. Always a good spot. We've been there many, many times. Pink Sand Beach, blah, blah, blah. It's like amazing. But I went with the easy option. I went with the lazy option, and I went for a nearby beach we could walk to from the cruise ship known as Snorkel Park Beach Club. Snorkel Park is located within the Royal Naval Dockyard, and it's your typical beach that you'll find near any cruise port. Unremarkable, but convenient. Now, if for my only day in Bermuda, I would have never gone, but this was an excuse to be in the water and enjoy the beach. First of all, to get in, it costs $75 for 2 chairs and an umbrella. So, of course, we've got 2 kids, my wife, that's 4 people, $150 off the bat, and already I was like, oh boy. And food and drink not included, by the way, in that price. The problem with this beach is that the sand was very rocky, there were a lot of things in the water, you had to look where you were going, and it was just unremarkable compared to other beaches I've been to, especially in Bermuda, let alone the Caribbean. So my best advice is to always look ahead, research, not just look out your window and see what's available, but look on the internet, take advantage of what that is to be able to figure out exactly the best option for you and your family. Next up was my Freedom of the Seas cruise, which was a 4-night cruise out of Miami just to the Bahamas. It basically went to Perfect Day, Coco Cay, Nassau, Sea Day. And on this cruise, I would say Hideaway Beach heated pool isn't as great as it might be in the summertime compared to the winter. Now, I absolutely love that Royal Caribbean is starting to heat its pools at Perfect Day, Coco Cay. They started this with the Coco Beach Club pool, and now Hideaway Beach pool is heated. And in case you're wondering, no, Oasis Lagoon pool is not heated. Now, for some of the months of the year, probably like I'm going to say November through April, having heated pool is amazing. But when you get into the summer months, May and June and what have you, and it gets to about 80 something degrees outside, having an 80-degree heated pool is not exactly ideal. Now, I'm not going to tell you my lesson learned here is to not go to Hideaway Beach. In fact, I got it for a great deal. I ended up paying less than $30 a person to get into admission here, and I think for the food alone, it was worthwhile. The thing is, I started my day off at the On the Rocks bar, which is a great view, great breeze, and even better live band that performs there, and I was enjoying their set. And I was there for like at least, 2 hours maybe. And then I started thinking, man, I'm here, I really should go in the pool because this is the whole point of Hideaway Beach. And so I left my very comfortable seat that I had by the band, went over to the pool, got in the pool, and I was like, well, this is definitely very warm. I'm of the opinion that a pool should be refreshing. I don't want it to be cold. I simply want it to be refreshing so that when you get in, you're like, this is nicer than being outside. And don't get me wrong, I had a nice time in the pool, but it was a little too warm for my liking because, again, it's heated. So what's the lesson learned here? Well, a couple things, I guess. Number one, if you are going in the summer months to Hideaway Beach, maybe opt for the actual ocean beach instead of the pool, or maybe also if you're comfortable somewhere, in my case, at the On the Rocks bar, double down on that. Don't feel like you need to get every single thing in. This isn't like visiting Washington, D.C., in which we got to see all the sites in one day. Enjoy what you're enjoying, and don't feel like you need to just see everything for the sake of seeing everything. And in my case, I wish I spent more time in that comfortable chair enjoying the band. Not that I could have gone back there, but I already left, and then I already made up my mind. Then when I went back to the ship, this realization came to me. Next up was Wonder of the Seas. This is my kids' spring break cruise, 7-night cruise out of Port Canaveral on Wonder of the Seas. And for this particular cruise, This is an important lesson about the value of a really good genie. For this sailing, we stayed in Star Class, which is the uppermost echelon of Royal Caribbean's suite program. Now, we've done videos about Star Class in the past and all the different options that are out there, but when you get a genie, it's a very personalized experience. Royal Caribbean lists out on paper, what your benefits are, but in my experience, having dealt with a couple different genies over the years, I've learned that everybody has their own style, and some are definitely better than others. And I've had pretty good experiences across the board. In fact, I've had great experiences across the board. I'm not going to lie. They've all been good in their own different ways. But in this case, our genie was absolutely fantastic. Our genie's name was Simona, and she just provided the kind of personalized service I think anybody who's staying in Star Class truly wants to get. And again, I don't want to make it seem like you can get a bad genie by any means, but it was really an eye-opening experience in terms of just how invested she made herself into the experience overall. And the result was, I think our family just took more advantage of it because she offered more that goes with it. So my lesson learned here is certainly that obviously a good genie can really make a big difference. And if you're staying in Star Class, one of the most important things you can do is certainly talk to your genie. The more you interact with them, the more you engage with them, the more you get a sense of what they're willing to do for you and make your vacation better. It's hard to describe if you've never done this because it seems like I'm being wishy-washy with what the genie certainly offers you, but there's very much a gray area of where the genie has the ability to maybe go above and beyond. And this is true of a lot of crew members, by the way, whether it's your stateroom attendant, a bartender, a crew member working a special event. There are things they can do not because they're not willing to do them, but because they simply have the inspiration to do so, to invest more of their time into your experience to see what they can do to make it better. And I was truly impressed by what Simona offered. If you're doing Star Class in the future, if you ever have that opportunity, my best advice to you is start talking to them early when you get on board the ship, get to know their personality, and share what you're looking to do. When you're new to Star Class, it's very common to feel bad about asking for anything. You don't want to be a bother. You don't want to be that guy. And certainly, there's some truth to that. You don't want to be that guy, but you also want to make sure you take advantage of what you're paying for. And I think there's nothing wrong with certainly asking politely and also inquiring about what options are out there to enhance your cruise. What's available? What am I not asking you? What are some things that are available that other people have done that might be interesting? Those are the kind of questions that can truly make a difference with the Star Class experience. The next lesson came on Allure of the Seas. This was a quick 3-night cruise over President's Day. And the lesson here is definitely prepared for the proper type of connectivity. What I mean by this is I went on Allure after going on Icon of the Seas. And in Icon of the Seas, there are power and USB plugs everywhere. But on Allure, almost the complete opposite, especially in your cabin. So my lesson here is bring extra plugs and a long cord for your bed. So as I mentioned, on Icon, they added so many plugs all around the cabin. I was really impressed by how many USB plugs and power outlets you could find on Icon, because for years it's always been a struggle. So I went from that ship to Allure, and Allure, of course, being one of the older Oasis-class cruise ships, and having not been refurbished recently, you can definitely tell the difference. And it was a little eye-opening, quite frankly, in terms of just the difference is. So my advice is definitely pack not only a USB extender to make sure you have more outlets in your room. You want to make sure it's just simply a USB hub, not a power strip or a surge protector. And then on top of that, get an extra long USB cord. I don't know about you guys, but I like being able to, right before bed, being able to sit in my bed and, of course, check my phone. The problem is I like to charge my phone overnight. And the issue is the only outlet in a cabin like on Allure of the Seas is that it's all the way back by the vanity. And so it's a little far away. Not a big deal, obviously, but that's two problems with it. One, when the alarm goes off in the morning, you have to immediately get out of bed and go turn it off, as opposed to flipping over, grabbing the phone, and then maybe just laying in bed for a little bit. And then if you just want to unwind in bed while still plugging in, well, of course, that's the other thing that's available there with that. So it's a minor thing, obviously, but it's a good investment, and I think anybody going on a cruise should bring it just in case. Now let's move on to Icon of the Seas, and I went on Icon of the Seas for her inaugural sailing, and I had a great time on the ship. The ship was fantastic, and on this particular sailing, myself and Angie, who's one of our writers and videographers here, and social media manager, she has a lot of titles, at RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com, we went on a group tour over to St. John in the Virgin Islands. We were in St. Thomas for the day, took a group tour, and we had a great time. I think Angie would agree. We had a really nice time at the beach there. But man, group tours are the best of times, and they're the worst of times. And while I'm not going to go as far as say to avoid group tours, certainly when you're doing group excursions, understand the pluses and minuses of them. And personally, I will gravitate now more towards private tours or doing things on our own rather than booking group tours. The issue was it was a lot of hurry up and wait. A lot of us being on time because we're doing the right thing, and then standing around because we're waiting for everybody to get there or the tour operator to get there. When you book something on your own, one advantage of it, of course, is that you get to move at your own schedule. Of course, the disadvantage of a private tour is you're going to pay significantly more compared to a group tour. So you need to weigh your priorities. And me, at this stage of my life, I'm a little more impatient with that. I'd rather want to take advantage of it. When we were in St. John, or St. Thomas, everyone look at it, we were only there from like 7 a.m. to like 2 p.m., something like that. So we had a very limited amount of time. And to me, wasting time when you only have a couple hours in port really stands out compared to, maybe a port where you're spending, 8 or 9 hours in port. So similar to the lesson I learned about Liberty of the Seas and researching your shore excursion options, the other thing is to weigh, of course, your time and how much time you want to invest in where you're going and maximize that experience. For a lot of people, going on a cruise may be their first sailing or their first time or only opportunity to go to a particular port. This is especially true of places like Alaska or Europe, in which you're going to these ports of calls, and this is that bucket list trip. This is your opportunity. You're not sure if you'll get back again, so you want to take the best advantage of it. So no matter where you're going, make sure when you're making your plans out there that you are taking advantage of that, especially if this is a particular port that you really relish spending a lot of time in. And then finally, that brings me to Mariner of the Seas, which is my first cruise of 2024, actually began on January 1st. And my lesson learned here, again, kind of following up on port plans, was be flexible with our port plans. So I did everything I should have done with Liberty of the Seas. I planned out this great excursion. In fact, this is actually something I learned from both lessons of both Icon and Liberty. I planned out this great tour, private excursion with a private company in Cozumel. We were going to go with a bunch of friends that were on board the ship. We were going to go on a private catamaran charter. It was going to be a great day, the perfect kind of day to enjoy for both our kids as well as the adults, right? We get on board Mariner of the Seas, and that day I get a phone call from the tour operator. They can't offer the tour. The boat was broken or something was malfunctioning with it, and they just couldn't offer it. And I appreciate that they let me know then and not the day of the excursion. But my lesson learned here is be flexible with your port plans. Never assume any plan that you have is written in cement. Things can always change. There could be bad weather. There could be a maintenance issue, as I mentioned here. Things can be canceled. Royal Caribbean cancels their excursions all the time. So you always want to be flexible and be able to pick something else up. So what did I do in that situation? Well, I went to the bar, had a drink, and then started looking up new options and then booked a tour right on the spot. When it comes to booking shore excursions, there is no right or wrong time to start booking a tour, but when you get to that final couple weeks before the sailing, a lot of things do sell out. So in my situation, when my tour was canceled merely a couple days before the scheduled day we're supposed to be there, it's really important to rebook something immediately. Certainly, I could have winged it. We were in Cozumel, which is the port that was affected by this, and there's a ton of things to do in Cozumel. But regardless of that, I wanted to make sure I was making the best decision possible. Started looking at different options, whether it was another day pass or maybe going to a different tour operator. But we ended up going to Paradise Beach over in Cozumel. We've been there before, and you know what? It was a known entity. It was great, but I was able to book something right on the spot, get us admission in there, and we had a great time enjoying our time at Paradise Beach. So there you have it, some of the lessons from the 6 Royal Caribbean cruises I've been on so far this year with a lesson learned from each single one. Let me know in the comments below. What is your lesson learned from your cruise in 2024, and how will you cruise differently as a result of it? While you're down below our video, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications. That way, YouTube lets you know we have a brand new video to share. This has been Matt from RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com. We'll talk again real soon.